But there is something that Marilla wishes to speak to Petrov about while he's doing his orderly things.
Sure, yeah. I want to talk about some of Kree's stuff first because that's probably more
Sure.
immediate, but we can definitely get to that for sure.
It'll be easy enough to
Definitely.
find.
Yeah. So Kree, you mentioned a couple of things about trying to integrate the armies. Now, where would you start? What would be the first step you would take in attempting to integrate your people with these with the rest of the army? And I guess also with a question with that, like, are you going to name lieutenants, like, to take charge of these groups, or are you still going to try and retain some form of leadership over them?
I would have actually assumed, being a complete lizardman army, they would have already had set lieutenants, and I've just kind of
Yeah,
led
they
them
probably
here.
do. So I guess then the question is, like, what instructions do you give them? Because you've been put in charge of these people. You can totally tell them, like, use your best judgment to do what you need to do, or you can be like, report back to me with these and this kind of stuff when it happens and stuff like that.
I would take sort of the more of a role of a strategist than a general here. This army is too much for one person to handle. That's
sure.
why the other army has a whole group of them.
Right.
But I would like reports on how each group is doing, and I would place sort of a head lieutenant over cavalry, head over.
So yeah,
so on,
you
so
have
forth.
captains, right, which would
Captains,
serve
that's
the
the word.
role as of that person, right? Like the one that reports to you and tells you how things are going, and then you'd have lieutenants that obviously took care of the day-to-day stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so so there's a scene probably that we see
sorry,
of.
you cut out just now.
No, I stopped talking. Is what happened.
Oh, okay.
There's a scene that we probably see of you gather all of the leadership, right? There are a couple of skink priests, not many, but there are a couple. And you gather, like, maybe some of the Saurus warriors and some of the Great Crests. You gather them around you, and you name captains, basically. And you give them their instructions, and they kind of the people who aren't named captains, you probably send them away so that you can have like a powwow with just those people, just you and your captains, right? Because again, there's this thing that happens in a military setting where you don't want to be too transparent with the troops. Because if you are too transparent with the troops, they will either get confused by all of the information or assume they know better. And you never want one of those two things to happen. So you're having a meeting with your captains, and this is still like very early on after getting here, right? Because you haven't started to do the dispersion and the instruction or anything. Would you have any of your party members there for this particular meeting?
No, this is a purely lizardman thing, and we're all speaking in lizardman.
Yeah, totally. So there's lots of like growls and hisses and clicking of teeth and stuff like that. Yeah, and so the group of you are huddled. You and like maybe like 3 or 4 others are huddled around, and as you're speaking, you notice that the group of you, and by that I mean the lizardmen in general, are getting a mixture of different looks from the men and women that are here. There are clearly some who are confused. There are some who are wary. There are some who are afraid. Probably mostly the younger ones are the ones who are afraid. They probably were told stories of how lizardmen would come in their sleep and get them if they were bad at some point in their life.
We're the big bad guys.
Yeah, not as bad as orcs, but yes.
Yeah.
And there are some who are on the opposite end of the spectrum. There are some who are like, who are happy that you're here. And that's mostly the older crowd. Like the old guardsman who knows better than to be, than to be racist in a sense, right? And so I think you realize kind of as you're talking and like glancing around, your captains are speaking and nodding and giving their ideas. You notice as you're kind of glancing around that there are going to be some complications with this. Be they good or bad. So, do you give any specific words of advice to your captains before you send them to do their job of beginning the integration of the armies?
I do. There are a few specific things that they're not allowed to do while integrated into these units.
Yeah, totally.
They're not allowed to preach about the old ones compared to the religion of Sigmar, because that's a big no-no for humans. And they're feasting, if they can help it, try not to eat anything raw.
Or at least do so in the confines of their own tents.
Exactly.
Or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah. Keep sort of the lizardmen culture, try and keep it in the privacy of their own tents or their own groups instead of in the open, and to enjoy some of the beer and festivities that humans have that lizardmen just don't.
Okay, so you want them to enjoy themselves as well, to integrate not only militaristically but also socially.
Yes.
Was the intent there, I assume.
Yes, not culturally but socially.
Okay, yeah, cool. I think that's great. I think that roll me an insight check.
I'm going to use my inspiration on this.
Okay. A 15's pretty good. There are varying degrees between your captains of acceptance of this. In particular, the ones that appear to be the most unsettled are is the priest, and also the Great Crest, the actual skink. The Saurus leader and the cavalry leader, they respect you because you are likened to them. But remember, in this society, in Lizardman society, like, it's kind of rare for a Saurus to be in charge of a priest.
Yeah.
Right? And so I think you can sense there's some grading on the priest captain about that. And then the Great Crest himself, there's probably some grading when it comes to like the integration socially portion of that, where he's like, maybe you see him like, maybe he's just uncomfortable, like, I'm not here to do that, like, kind of thing. They don't say anything because they understand how rank works, but you do get the sense that there are some misgivings with those.
Would it be possible to pull the two skinks aside?
Yeah, totally.
I want to dismiss the other captains, the captain of the Saurus groups.
Yeah,
and pull aside
there's probably a Saurus footman, a Saurus cavalry, a skink Great Crest that kind of controls all, probably the skinks, and then the priest, which controls all the priests as well. So yeah, you can send them off.
Gotcha. Specifically, I want to pull them aside because I need to mention to them that the old ones are our religion. They are our religious entities. They can hold themselves as their high priests, but don't bring arguments and foul attitudes towards the army because of their beliefs. That's specifically what I want to mention, because they are our religion. They're the Lizardmen. That's what they represent. But if they're bringing bad views onto us because of how they're arguing with other priests over what they believe in, it's going to cause us problems.
Yeah, totally.
But I also don't want the Saurus to see this, because the Saurus are dumb and we leave them alone.
You are a rare one of your kind. This is a true statement. They are pretty dumb. Man, at least you don't have any Croxagore.
Oh god, no kidding. I mean, I wish I had.
Yeah,
a couple,
and the priest understands why, and probably throughout the meeting and now he's probably the most vocal, because again, priest answering to a Saurus is strange, but you're marked. You're chosen by the old ones, and his boss, right? His leader, the high priest, told him that this is what he needs to do, and so he's going to do it. I think he mentions that, like, he probably asks if they can still conduct their, like, daily rituals, because there probably is, like, a daily ritual of some sort that they need to complete, in order for their worship to occur.
And, of course, I give my blessing to that, and for them to bless the troops with the powers of the Old One.
Okay.
That is a visible thing that we can still do.
Okay, cool.
It's like Sigmar priests giving their blessing.
Yeah, I mean, he seems satisfied with that answer, but, there's still a little bit of, misgivings there. But, again, he knows who his boss is, and he will follow directions. Do you say anything specifically about, like, the social stuff to the Great Crest that's with you?
He should treat himself how other priests treat themselves, but in a higher regard. He is still a high-ranking lizardman, and he should be treated as such, but to not command that. Of humans, of course. Lizardmen still need to follow his order.
Yeah,
that
totally. So I think that's good. I think this satisfies them, and they, proceed off. And I think that's probably sufficient. We will. I'll be making some rolls to see if there's any incidents, which I'm sure there will be. For now, though, everybody is new enough that there's just basically introductions and general, like, avoidance. Depending on how long this campaign, and by campaign I mean military campaign, goes on, it may improve or worsen. So, excellent. Moving on. Morella,
Yes.
you probably find Arkady, I don't know. Arkady, where would you be? Would you be, like, in the war tent, or do you have any specific plans for, like, now that the lizardmen have showed up, are you trying to move quickly on this and get with some people, or are you trying to, like, let it kind of sink in before you approach people and begin having conversations with them?
Yeah, he's mostly just listening to start. So I think he's keeping his distance from any major conversations.
Okay. All right, fantastic. So you're just kind of testing
Sorry, I
the
may have
waters.
zoned out there for a second. Did I not answer the question you asked?
No. You're just dipping your toes in the water, right? You're just seeing what everybody's general mood is on the situation as it stands before you leap into action, right? That's what I gathered. Okay, cool. So where would Morella find you, if she wanted to come talk to you?
She might just find me wandering sort of between tent and tent in the noble area, since he's trying to do sort of an inventory of the local leadership.
Cool. Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, you find him just kind of meandering through the tents, maybe kind of just, like, listening in on a conversation between a couple of lords and ladies that are sitting around a campfire or something.
Yeah. And as he's, like, listening, because I can imagine, like, Petrov, like, more so of, like, just instead of, like, just standing by and like nearby, he'd be probably, like, just, like, walking past tents and, like, briefly stops, shifts his eyes over to, like, look over, hears conversations happening, and probably jots down a few notes. So that's when she probably catches him, when he stops once and just merely pokes his shoulder to see if she spooks them, which obviously that doesn't happen.
Is impossible.
Is impossible because you're so paranoid.
It's like you reach down to touch him, and he just goes, "Hello, Morella."
Yeah, sounds about right.
Yeah.
Yeah,
One of
she's
those
like,
moments. Yep.
she retracts her hand and she's like, "Ever so observant, aren't you, Petrov? Anyways, I need you to do something for me in the meantime."
Do tell. Have you commissioned Farron to start singing your praises yet?
I have not, but perhaps that is one of the things I can ask you to do. I've been meandering with the simple men of this
Sounds
army.
like it builds character.
Yes.
What is the task on your mind then?
Task multiples. I need you to start setting up a meeting so we can start using Kree's men. I have a plan that I have in mind for them. I think with this recent undead epidemic, I think his men will be the perfect ones to deal with them. So,
Why is that?
it seems that Kree and his people tend to hunt well, and if they are in and she goes off and this is just merely based on what I've seen of Kree. It may not actually go well with the rest, but it's just an idea. It does not have to be the one that has to be done.
He is a predator, to be sure. I don't doubt that these soldiers will be terrifyingly effective in these forests, but whether we need to send hunters after undead, I'm not sure. I have yet to hear much about the tactics our foe has been deploying. They seem to have made mad rush out of city to meet us, but beyond that, we know little.
Yes, and another is, I need you to gather messengers to send to Tablaheim.
That is quite a distance. What do you expect to get from Talabheim?
I am not sure. I'm not sure whether they can get to us in time or not, but if this takes too long, reinforcements would replenish what we would lose in a long stead. Call it a precaution, Petrov. I would like the idea of perhaps receiving reinforcements sometime than never.
True enough, although it's dangerous. We may wish to speak to Orders of Magic. They have better messengers than we can send on foot.
Well, one on horse is better than on foot, but I agree. Messengers of magic is far more efficient. Again, see if you can get a messenger of sort. Would be what I ask of you, Petrov. If not,
organize meeting
fine.
with Kree, get messenger, what else?
Oh, tell Farron to spread my charming ways. In his own charming way.
Yeah, seems good.
I can draw upon party funding for this, but I was serious when I said you should hire him.
Of course, but I am just curious as to the mindset of the troops at the moment.
Well, don't let me delay you then. I will let you know what the mindset of the nobility is once I have found it.
Sorry, that made me laugh. The mindset.
She actually laughs at that too. She's like, it might take some time, Petrov.
Yep. Mm-hmm. That's what I was thinking.
And she begins walking off. Then, and she's like, you'll know where to find me then.
You tend to stand out in the crowd.
Of course. As she probably walks past the tent and disappears in the midst of people. And yeah, that's the conversation I have with Petrov.
Totally.
I do think though she is heading towards a certain direction, probably towards the priest section.
Okay. So the camera zooms out of you, and makes it over to. We see, Aelin and Hannibal. You guys have probably been riding together just because you're on the way in the same direction, right?
Yeah, I'd like to have a little chat with her before we actually arrive at the section.
Yeah, and Daniela's with you there as well.
That's good for me too, actually.
What's the conversation you have? And I assume it has been fairly light since your encounter with whatever the fuck that thing was.
Oh, you too. I almost forgot to mention something very important.
Yes, Hannibal, what is it?
Do not tell anybody who we talk to, or who I talk to.
Well, why not?
Sigmarites don't look too kindly on the Fae. And trust me when I say they will probably immediately pick out that what you saw was Fae.
Yeah. I think Daniela, kind of just shakes her head and says, Hannibal, I don't think anyone would believe us even if we told them.
You'd be surprised what Sigmarites can believe.
I think she actually laughs at that, truer words were never spoken.
Anyways, if you tell them, there's a high chance that they will kill me and then kill you.
Well, I will certainly keep it to myself then.
Very good then. So how are you Tuesdays going?
So yeah, as you mention this, and you're just trotting through the camps, you pass a tent where an old woman emerges. She kind of you see her open the flap and kind of stare at you, and she's got kind of that, and I'm just gonna describe it like this. This isn't exactly what it is, but that kind of old crone witch kind of look
Hags.
to her. Yeah.
Warty.
Yeah, that old hunched over walks with a walking stick.
Hello, dearie.
Yeah, exactly. She's got kind of that look as she kind of eyes you as you go past, and you guys greet her amicably.
So.
And and she says, Aelin, is that you?
Do I recognize this woman?
Roll me a history check.
Okay.
Let's see how well you remember your own history.
Yeah, totally. Good.
Very well.
So it
Aelin
takes
never forgets a face.
yeah, it takes you a moment. You look at this person, and the reason why it takes you a moment is because it doesn't look like anyone the person that it is very changed from when you last saw them. So back in your home when you were a small child, shortly after a traumatic incident in your life, where things are still a bit blurry in your hazy memory, right? For multiple reasons, trauma being one of them. Just in general, being young being one of them. Your father hired a woman, and you probably associated her name with, he probably called her a hedge witch at some point in time. And that's probably what stuck in your mind. And her name was Ariel. You remember that. And so yeah, it all comes kind of swimming through this foggy haze back into your memory. Yeah, it dawns upon you that this appears to be Ariel, but her appearance has changed when you remember her. And again, this was 20 years ago or whatever. Less than that probably. 11 years ago or something like that. When you remember her, she stood straight. She had these kind of she was middle-aged, right? She had kind of these long, flowing blonde locks of hair. And you remember she always had these little, jingly bells in them. And so that noise, and you can see that her hair is all kind of it's looks like straw, and it's pure white, and it kind of hangs down her side, and it's not kempt at all, but you can see the little bells that you remember kind of interlaced in her hair, and maybe that's actually what jogs your memory. But she, in however long it's been, she looks like she's aged 3 times that.
Oh my goodness, Ariel, is that? can't be you. Is it you?
Yes, dearie, it is. It is wonderful to see you again. How have you
Aelin-
been?
She immediately jumps down from her horse if she was still on it and just runs over and like almost takes her out when she hugs her so hard.
Yeah, you hug her and like her back pops, right? And she's like, oh, that felt lovely. Yes, thank you. I can't breathe, dearie.
Oh, I'm so sorry, Ariel. I'm so happy to see you. I haven't seen anybody from home in so long. What brings you here exactly?
Well, when they gather up the people to go fight a war, who is there to take care of them afterwards, I ask?
Well, you certainly take care of people the best I've ever seen.
Yeah, and I think she kind of like does she kind of like
That's
blushes, and she says, "Oh my, you certainly haven't lost any of your charm. And who are these delightful people that you're with?"
Oh, this is Daniela. She's from my church, and this over here is Hannibal D. Solomon. He's and she just kind of like stops.
Yeah, Daniela upnods, right?
Mhm.
It's basically her form of interaction. What do you do, Hannibal?
I do the whole like tilt head back, like sup.
Okay.
Yeah, the upward nod.
Yeah, and she
Just
kind
like
of
Daniela.
she kind of like approaches your horse, Hannibal, and she like stretches out a hand to like touch it, the old gnarled hand. She kind of like runs her hand down the side of the horse, and the horse kind of like shakes, like that kind of shiver when somebody touches you unexpectedly, and she says, "My, you have a fine steed there, Hannibal D. Solomon.
Thank you. His name's Cockmeister.
It is a pleasure, valiant Cockmeister." And she appears to be speaking to the horse. And roll me a perception check, Hannibal.
Yo, should Dane do as well?
No, he's probably not on the lookout for this.
Okay. No.
No, probably not. Yeah, the horse kind of like shakes its head when she begins like speaking to it. Its ears kind of like flutter a bit when it hears its name that it's been given for 2 weeks or whatever.
That's his name from now on. I'm keeping this horse.
It's fine. I'll probably kill it soon. So she comes back to Aelin. She says, I heard, dearie, that you were in charge of a church now. Is that true?
In charge is such a... I don't know. I did take on a church, yes. I helped bring it back to life. It's in Altdorf. Have you been there?
I think Daniela kind of like coughs, but is like modest. And yeah, the old woman, she says, "Oh no, I don't go around the big cities too much anymore. Too many people. I've been knocked over in the streets too many times for that."
Oh, you poor thing.
She just kind of like waves her hand, and she's like, "Oh, no, it's fine, dearie, it's fine. I understand. Sometimes they can't see an old woman crossing the road."
So you have to fill me in. What has been taking up your time these past years?
Oh, I think there will be time for that later, but I do not wish to interrupt your task that you are so astutely on, I see. She kind of like, motions for like, what, where, I don't want to interrupt you. I just wanted to say hi.
Oh yes, we were just headed off to the cleric's tents. We'll be back though, certainly.
That would be nice. I would like to catch up.
Blessings, Ariel. I still can't believe it's you.
She kind of like gives a I can barely believe it myself. And as you guys part ways and you head off back towards the you get back on your horse and you begin trotting off and you wave and you turn around. She sits outside of her tent and kind of just like has both her hands resting on her walking stick. And we see her, she just kind of like watches you leave and like pass through the tents. And you see her kind of like give a smirk and shake her head and go back into hers after you guys leave vision.
So, who was that lady?
she took care of me when I was younger and after the incident.
Yeah, sure, that thing. Yep. Hannibal says, acting like he absolutely knows. He does not. He forgot that conversation.
Mm-hmm.
And then he immediately was like, why the fuck did I ask in the first place?
It's 'cause you care.
Wow, yeah, she's gonna convert you, Hannibal. That'd be the greatest story ever, actually. She just ends up converting you.
Slowly but surely,
Yeah.
it's happening.
Story of our lifetime.
It'd be still a better love story than Twilight.
Wasn't gonna say it, but thank you.
You're welcome. So, you guys arrive, and as is customary, there is a large, boisterous tent in the middle of this circle of other tents that has a large hammer and sun symbol on it, and it is emblazoned in like bright gold leaf and, you know, with like the red outline, and it's very ostentatious. But a tenet that they don't serve in Sigmar very often is modesty. In the tenets of Sigmar are more, you should aspire to be the best among men that you can possibly be. And a lot of that comes with being boastful about things. If Sigmar had an alignment, it would probably be lawful neutral, if we're being completely honest. So
Not chaotic.
no, they follow a very strict set of things to the letter. Like, even if it means harm to themselves, to the letter. You know, if it's chaos, I will kill it or die trying is kind of like the thing that they live for. And then surrounding, right, yeah, no. If there is suspicion of chaos, I will kill it or die trying is kind of what they follow. Surrounding that tent, there are a smattering of other tents, but one specifically is pure white, and has a very small symbol of a dove holding like an olive branch on the front of it. It's very clearly a tent for Shalia. It's small, though. Probably can only hold maybe 10, 20 people. Obviously, it would not be able to take in like a group of like injured soldiers. Obviously, all that would either be done in the field or in their own tents. But it's at least a meeting place for said thing. The second largest tent here is probably for the priesthood of Moor, actually. And I don't know if I've talked about them a whole lot. They are essentially the... Moor is a very interesting deity. He's the god of death.
Worshippers of Hades.
Yeah, he's the god of death, but it's like the true god of death. Like, the dead should remain dead and should be respected as such. Hades would be a good representation if Hades didn't do all the evil things.
Yeah.
It's like...
wasn't his fault.
It's like worshipping Anubis would be the best kind of comparison. Because Anubis was the guardian to the afterlife, right? And that's kind of what this is. It's like, you know, these would be the people that would hunt you down if you resurrected somebody from the dead. Is essentially how it works. And they actually have a bit of friction with the priesthood of Shalia, because there are probably a lot in its ranks that believe that the priests of Shalia commonly bring people back from death after they had already died, right? Like, the healing magics that Shalia brings, those people are to be considered dead when it happens a lot of times. You know, somebody has, you know, a giant ballista bolt through their gut, and the priest of Shalia draws upon like heavy magic to heal that person. A priest of Moor might look at that and be like, that man was dead, or that woman was dead, you should not have done that, like, it was their time. But the thing above all else that they hate above all else and will fight above all else is true undeath. They are the bastion that stands between the undead forces and, you know, humanity, elven kind, dwarven kind, etc. Yeah, Death should have tried harder. Exactly. So there is a bit of friction there. Obviously, the priests, the priests and priestesses of Shalia are too, noble and too about life to kind of give in to that kind of restriction, but it mostly comes in the form of, like, the paladins of each order probably have a lot more friction. And I think that we see that reflected in when you guys walk past the tent. Daniela probably gives them, makes sure she's aware of all of the paladins of Moor that are in the city, right? Like, you could see her mentally, like, looking at them, remembering their features and knowing who they are as you pass them. And both of you would notice this. She's not making any motion to hide it. Would either of you comment on that at all?
I'm not a fan of most of these organized religions.
True. That's a good point.
I would probably say that out loud, too, at this point.
Yeah.
What the fuck? Hannibal's apparently feeling chatty.
Yeah, why not? And Aelin, you know about the friction, right? Like, you know that this is a thing that exists.
Yes, and I also think that it's a character trait of Daniela's to be too judgmental. And
For
so
sure.
I think it's a constant kind of, like, Aelin has said many a times that we are all members of faith, just trying to constantly keep us in an equal playing field.
Right, yeah, like listen, everybody has their job to do. If there are those we can't save, they're the ones that, But again, and Daniela, for Daniela, it probably mostly stems from needing to be considered an equal, because the priests of Moor probably consider it lesser. And God, throughout the decades, there have probably been incidents where a priest of Moor or a paladin of Moor has condemned a priest or priestess of Shalia to death for committing acts of necromancy. Even though that may not truly have been what it was, it's probably gone that far, and there have probably been, like, actual bloodshed over it at times. And so it's probably like a defensive mechanism for Daniela to be so judgmental and to know where her enemy might lie, kind of thing. So yeah, there's just that, you maybe you rest a hand on her shoulder and just shake your head, or whatever you say to her, as you progress. So Hannibal, are you going to go somewhere specific? Because those orders that I mentioned, they all have tents here as well.
Oh, fuck, they do?
Yeah, which is, they basically all have tents except for the ones I mentioned were not here. The Grey Order would not have a tent. In this particular area, the Amber Order would not be here.
Which order specifically values knowledge again? I'm a little bit rusty on the orders.
No, it's fine. They're Death, Amethyst Order. That's going to be the priests and priestesses of Moor.
I don't want to associate with those.
The Bright Order. If you're looking for arcane, let me just say this: you're looking for arcane.
Fuck yeah, I am.
Casters, right? Your best bet is going to be either the Bright Order, which is the Order of Fire.
Bright Wizards. Yes.
Or the Amber Order. The Order of
Which they're not here.
Right, which aren't in this particular area. Probably the Bright Order is your best.
Fuck it, I'll go to the Bright Order, because I feel
Bright
like
Wizards.
I'm swing as the fucking master of magic of Gnome.
True, indeed.
That's probably spread a little bit by now.
Maybe not to here, because remember, you guys rode quickly, but certainly it will spread quickly, yes. So, do you take your farewell from Aelin and Daniela to go do this?
Sup, bye. Remember, don't tell. It's not a lie if you don't say anything.
Did you just meme us?
No, I think it was in reference to their previous conversation. And I think that as he trots off, Daniela just looks at you and says, "That is a strange man."
We are all unique in our own way, Daniela.
Yes, but him more so than most.
Ride, Cockmeister!
He rears up, Hannibal grabs on for dear life.
Yeah, and then
it's like you heroically like get up like you're about to charge, and then you land, and it just starts trotting away, just like walking at a slow pace.
And then I'd be speech to him and go like, "Dude, don't do that again. That nearly killed me."
Yeah, right, exactly. like
that was cool and all, but like, I'm not that good of a rider.
If you could take it down like 2 notches when I say ride next time, that would be great.
Yeah, like build up to it, but be cool about it. We cool?
Yeah, he probably shakes his head. You think he's laughing at you?
Dude, come on. I thought we were cool.
Yeah, no, he agrees. So you head off and
Winning.
The Bright Order has a their tent is probably distinguishable because of the fact that it's painted red, which is typically associated with Sigmar Inquisitors, which are basically the scariest motherfuckers in the Empire. But on it, it's got like a flame emblazoned on the like tent flap or whatever. It's fairly small. It looks like maybe houses like maybe a desk and 2 or 3 people. And outside you can see there is there's probably a man standing there, and he's got like a sword at his belt, and he's got like his belt is lined with like a bunch of like pockets and pouches and stuff. And he's wearing like these kind of like maybe like fuchsia colored robes. And he's kind of like standing there, and you can see him. He's kind of like idly just gazing into the sky and like looking around. But you see on his shoulder he has a small flame emblazoned in that kind of gold outline.
So I get off my horse. I walk up to him. Is he still looking at the sky?
Yeah, he's just kind of like looking up and like looking at the sky.
I clap.
Yeah, and he kind of like shakes his head a little bit and like is startled slightly. And he looks down and he says, "Ah, yes. How can I help you?"
Sup, I'm Hannibal D. Solomon.
"It's a pleasure." And he kind of like looks up at the sky again. And yeah, now that he knows you're here, he says, "How may I be of assistance, Hannibal Solomon?" And he's like looking around at the stars and stuff that are starting to come out.
I look up with them, and then I go, "Look, there's the Big Dipper. And there's Orion's belt. Look, it's pretty." I gotta just talk to him for a little bit about stars, because...
How much do you know about astronomy?
A lot of it has to do with magic, doesn't it?
Yeah, certain tenets of orders believe that. The Bright Order, probably primary among them.
Yeah, so I might know a fair amount.
Sure. Roll me an Arcana check, then.
Okay, sure. Not well, no. Fuck it.
Wow, you've been rolling bad all night.
I rolled twice.
And they were both 9s. So, yeah, you, like, begin to talk, and he's just kind of, like, nodding, and he says... He's, like, nodding politely, and then, like, when you start to, like, you know, kind of ramble on a bit, he says, "Yes, I shall ask a 3rd time, Hannibal Solomon. What may the Bright Order do for you today?"
Oh, yeah.
And he, like, at that point, he kind of, like, brings his head back down and, like, stares at you, because obviously you're not going to go away until...
I need a... Yeah, I basically came here looking for a place to stay and to get to know the Order, considering how I'm a fighting asset.
Yeah, so he says, "You wish to become an acolyte. It is strange."
Hold on a second. Never said that.
Yeah, he kind of smiles and he says, "How else would you join the Order?"
I'm not looking to join an Order. I need a place to stay, and these guys seem like they'd be the coolest with me.
I think he says, "Well, that greatly depends on who you are, and..."
Researcher of Chaos. Nice to meet you.
Yeah, he kind of like, he probably like looks at your hand. Do you extend your hand to shake, I should ask?
Yeah, with Puck.
Yeah.
I mean, not Puck, Dane.
Yeah, not Puck. He kind of like...
Oh, wait, move him from deceased.
No. He kind of like looks at your hand for a moment and like kind of tentatively like reaches out to grab it.
Charisma saving throw!
Roll a charisma saving throw, right? Okay.
Yeah. And either way, you still have to tell me what his current feelings are.
How much charisma does this guy have? Probably not a whole lot.
Failed it. Tell me his alignment.
I mean, alignment is a weird thing, but he is probably...
Is he a good person?
Yeah, I would say he is probably a I know neutral good isn't really a thing, but that's kind of where he's at. He is a good person. He leans good. But he is not necessarily lawful, not necessarily chaotic.
Mm-hmm. And what are his current feelings?
He's annoyed.
I can sense that you're annoyed.
Yeah, and he probably looks at you and says, "Yes, I believe I've made that quite obvious, as you are here asking for a place to stay and to get to know us, but have no wish to join. Do you possess the magical arts, Hannibal Solomon?"
Yes, I do.
Well, that is a first step at least, and I can say there have been more difficult than you as well, but what incentive for us offering shelter for you will you give?
Well, other than fighting in the war effort, and then I bring out some of my rare books.
Yeah, so you bring out some books and you say,
I'm
hey,
going to need these back, but I don't mind sharing the information.
I'll share some knowledge with you. Yeah.
But,
yeah, I think he looks at those without even... I don't even think you need to roll for that. I think he looks at those and he says, the gift of knowledge is a good one. Very well, Hannibal. We will provide you with a place to stay.
I also believe in the gift of knowledge. I'm actually a researcher of the archives of Nuln.
Truly. Is that whence these tomes come from?
Fuck yeah.
Then this will be a great honor. I thank you. And he kind of extends the hand to take one of the books or two of the books or whatever.
Hold up. I need a promise from you, and I believe I could trust you. These are not my books. These belong to Nuln. I will require them back.
If you wish, you may stay while they are perused.
That's fine with me. And then I hand him one of the books.
Yeah. Do you give him a selection, so he can...
Sure, you know what? Why not?
Yeah.
This guy's already annoyed with me, but I guess he's kind of less annoyed now that he's going to get to see some cool shit.
He doesn't... He thinks you are an annoying person, but you are offering him a gift, and so he is willing to accept that.
Fuck yeah, I'm annoying. I'm the most annoying man on this fucking planet.
It's pretty accurate. Yeah, and so he kind of leafs through and selects one at his leisure and says, "Come, enter the tent. We shall find you well, it appears you have at least bag to sleep in. We will find you some space in the tent."
Fuck yeah. Let's do this.
Yeah, and you walk in and there's a small table set up with
By the way, who are you?
Candle burning. He's like, "My name is Clyde. It is a pleasure."
Clyde, C-L-I-D-E or C-L-Y-D-E?
C-L-Y-D-E.
Man, that's strange. Alright.
I don't know. I would assume that to be traditional spelling, but okay.
No, I'm fucking with them.
And yeah, so he kind of lets you in and you guys enter in and that kind of the flap closes and we close the scene on Hannibal. You've acquired housing with them.
Yeah, and sometime during the night I kind of want to sneak off away from everybody and continue trying to contact Chaltressa.
Yes, I specifically haven't gotten to that yet because it's gonna need to be not when you're surrounded by 7,000 people.
Yeah. I'm going off somewhere on my own, and I have the ability to do that.
Yeah,
I have Dimension Door. I can go far.
So let's jump over to Farron. I should say Farron and Mel, really. So, Farron, you said you're going to be hanging out with the scouts or whatever. So,
yeah,
you get over there, and as you kind of approach, because remember Mel wasn't with you when you went to go meet the lizardman, and at some point throughout your travel through the tent, she materializes back at your side, and she as you guys are kind of walking through, do you say anything to her when she reappears?
You always seem to know where to find me, Mel.
And she's like, "Well, it's simple, really. She says, I place an item in your bag that allows me to track you, wherever you may be." She kind of just like deadpans you for a moment.
Concerned face.
Do you fold your hands together flat and like concerned
Yep.
face? Yeah. And she goes, "I'm just kidding, you idiot. You make so much noise I could hear you from 10 miles away."
Where's the fun in being a minstrel if you can't make a bit of noise?
Yeah, she just kind of like shakes her head. And you guys are walking along and through like the scout tents. And as you guys are walking, roll me a perception check.
Perception. Ooh.
13's not bad. So you, as you're kind of going along, you're getting some looks, right? Because you're a stranger in the midst of these tents, and you know, there's some people who are like poking their heads out or like looking around, and dusk is settled in quite significantly now, so it's pretty much dark. So the campfires and torches outside the tents are kind of glowing and casting these weird shadows kind of over everything, and so people are interested in your arrival. And after a couple of minutes, Mel actually she takes her arm and she loops it through yours as you're walking. Do you say anything to her when she does that?
Well, it seems the only girls I'm interested in always wear the pants in the relationship, so I don't think I have a right to say anything.
You do have a type. So yeah, if you give her like you look at the arm and then look at her with like confused look on your face, she kind of like looks at you and she says, "I'd rather not be accosted by all these men that are ogling. If I have to put my sword in somebody's tongue tonight, well, at least it will be somebody I know." And she gives you like a big, like toothy smile.
Oh, don't worry. It's only that they don't know to fear you yet.
She like gives you kind of a racking laugh and says, "Ah, too true you are, my dear. Come, let us go meet these new friends of ours."
Aye, indeed. I'm sure we'll have to get along with them.
So, eventually you find, like, kind of a nice, like, quiet place. And as you kind of go into this large, like, more common area, there are a couple of cots that are laid out around this larger kind of bonfire. And you can see there are men and women lying on them that are bandaged and wounded. And there are a couple people going through and, like, you know, kneeling down at the side of one of them and, you know, going through other things. And remember the scouts were involved in a skirmish. And so it appears that you've come upon a remnant of that. Do you do anything with that? Or you just take note of it and continue on to go set up your hovel?
No, if there's injured scouts, then I'll obviously provide some assistance to their troubles, with some healing wards and such.
Yeah. Before you do that, though, I want you to roll me a medicine check. Beautiful. And
Yep.
with a 19, we'll tell you what that means after our break. So, everybody be back at 10 after, and we'll go over what the 19 and the medicine check means.
Cool.
And
Man, this has been going by real fast.
yes, it has. And we will be right back.
Yep.
Okay, stream. We're gonna be right back. See you in a few minutes.